On today's episode, we are talking about what, Jason?
Wah, wah. Adulting.
Oh, no. Yes, we are talking about adulting and all the thoughts, feelings, and maybe ways to cope with it coming up right now. Welcome to Collect Your Thoughts. I am Sean Millhouse, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Jason LeCompte, also a licensed professional counselor.
Yes. How you doing, Jason?
I'm good. I'm a little tired today, but, it's because I've been working on all of my responsibilities today. So,
which is very on par for our episode today. Great little segue. This feels very apropos to the topic today, which, when we were coming up with doing this podcast, I think we wanted to reach a bunch of different topics.
Yeah.
And one that I definitely think has become more and more of sort of this part of the lexicon and our world is this whole idea of adulting. And I see it with my clients. Obviously, I feel it in myself. And so before we even jump into what adulting looks like or what the definition is and kind of different ways to maybe cope and deal with it and recognize it, I wanted to ask you, as a child, even though adulting wasn't the term that was used, what did adulting look like to you when you were a kid?
Wow. That's a great question. Oh, I mean, if I'm 9 years old, it was my dad getting up and going to work every morning, leaving for the day, right? This is maybe summer vacation, right? And then coming home at the end of the day, and then puttering around the house after dinner or something along those lines. And then my mom, until I was about 10 years old, I think, was a stay-at-home parent. And so she was around the house doing things, right? She was cleaning up and she was wrangling 3 boys and she was, maintaining laundry, whatever, all those sorts of things, like just basically adult responsibilities. I didn't really see her do things that weren't responsible other than like reading. Like my mom is a big reader. And so she just that would be her like timeout, her afternoon, with a cup of tea or something along those lines. So yeah, I just remember it being a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah. Did you actually, like when you were a kid, did you remember thinking, oh, I can't wait to grow up and like have like adult things?
I mean, not responsibilities.
Sure. Yeah. No.
I was the oldest of 3 growing up. And so I was kind of like was made the example. Like I need to be the example for my younger brothers was kind of like a thing I heard a lot. But like outside of like, what do you want to be when you grow up, little Jason? I didn't know. I didn't want to have more responsibility. No, I wanted to play video games. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to run around and ride my bike and all that kind of stuff.
For me with adulting, like my brain kind of goes to 2 places. One, my original thought was, I think I remember maybe more of like the sitcom version without kids. And so like
a Three's Company type deal.
Okay. No, more like Friends.
Okay, sure. There's our age difference. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, while I definitely appreciate the shenanigans of Three's Company, no, like, yeah, I thought you get to just hang out with your friends whenever you want. You go to your cool job. Like, yeah, life is hard, but you know what? You have each other and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then when you were talking about all that stuff, I'm like, oh, yeah, like when I think of adulting through the lens of what I saw at my parents, it was absolutely get to work early, run around and do a bunch of stuff. Get home, into the evening, be really tired, still have to do a million things around the house, laundry, dinner, getting prepared for the next day, potentially helping, me or my sister with homework. And then, yeah, like it definitely did not look fun. But like in my head, I think I remember thinking like, oh, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna, have like my own car, my own apartment, and we're just gonna hang out and just like be cool. Like it
At
was
the
just
cafe
so
with all my friends.
yes, that we
Right.
all can go to at every hour in the day,
Right.
regardless of,
Exactly.
yeah, because we have the most flexible jobs apparently that don't care if we're there or not. So maybe we should get into what like some of the common ideas around adulting are. So like, how would you personally identify like the definition of adulting?
I mean, it's basically just being responsible, like doing things that I have to do. And this might be jumping the gun a little bit, but like it's stuff that I definitely have chosen to have in my life. But then it's also stuff that when I choose it, like I become responsible, right? So then I kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that I would define adulting. Is these are a lot of things in my life that I do want them, but if I want them, nobody else is going to do them, so I have to be the adult that gets them done.
The idea of adulting, I think, we all know it's not something that was brand new. It's not something that people all of a sudden started doing in the 2010s. It is just a new word for, like you said, the adult experience, having responsibilities and taking care of them.
I feel like it's quintessentially a millennial term too.
Very. We love to come
Yeah.
up with our names. The first, or at least according to research, a lot of people associate adulting with an author by the name of Kelly Williams Brown, who wrote a book back in 2013 called Adulting: How to Become a Grown Up in 468 Easy-ish Steps.
I do remember
Um,
hearing about that. Yeah.
yeah. And
It's
so
just a few. It's just a few steps.
just a few.
Yeah.
And what's interesting though is a few years ago, Vanity Fair actually got back in touch with her and talked about what adulting, felt like now. And she was from a very different position in her life. I think at the time of this article, she was like 37, and she
Mhm.
had had a divorce. She had had different changes in her job. She basically said she had gone like through, as she called it, like a mental breakdown of sorts. And so I think that also shows how the idea of what adulting looks like changes with age too,
For sure.
right? And so
And with if you have your own business and with right, like lots it changes. Yeah.
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 And not even just like because you're, as you get older, but also literally because you get older, the aging process, your health, the health of people around you, all of those things start to become way more real and in part of your life. It's not just like you're this freewheeling 20 something that is running around and just having the time of their life with like their blinders on.
Yeah, just trying to figure stuff out or making mistakes or not really having a whole lot of responsibility. So,
Yeah.
yeah, totally get it. I've been through different iterations of this myself. So,
According to an article from Pew Research,
hmm.
they say that most people say they feel quote unquote like an adult around age 27. And that is mostly due to the financial responsibility aspect. You're
Mm,
much more firmly aware of, oh, money is everything, and money is at the center of how you live and how you get by, and if you have
yeah.
enough of it or you don't. And so I'm curious for you, Jason, when you look back at 20 something Jason, 27-year-old Jason
Yeah.
versus where you're at now, what do you feel like are some of the major fundamental differences with adulting that you have experienced in your own life?
Well, so I think exactly that age is when I got my first solo apartment. So, up until then, I had been in college dorms and college apartments and roommates and all that kind of scenario. And then I had a year or two back at my parents' house. And then I finally like got the job that allowed me to like launch and get my own place. And so 27, I remember being like pretty important in terms of like feeling like I had finally made it. I'd finally like, financial independence and I don't have to live with my parents anymore or rely on them for anything anymore. And so it's interesting that you say that age. I was kind of chuckling as you were describing it because I have a story that I bring up sometimes about that particular apartment. So my dad is a house painter. I think you know that, but I asked him to help me paint that apartment like basically the weekend I was moving in, like before I brought all my stuff in there. And so chose some colors or whatever. She and I were painting it. And then I remember like asking him, because this was, like I said, it felt like a big moment for me, right? I remember asking him, and my dad is, just for context, like he's definitely firmly in the boomer generation. Like he's in his early 70s now. I said, do you ever feel like you are like you know what you're doing, or are you just kind of like making it up as you go along? He said, yeah, I mean, I pretty much know what I'm doing. I was like, it was such like a vulnerable moment where I was hoping for some sort of camaraderie or validation around like this like big moment in my life where I'm launching myself. And he just was like, yep, no, I got it. Like everything's fine. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it could be very much like just the difference in our experiences or place in life, or maybe he just didn't pick up what I was putting down, right? Like I was looking for that validation and he didn't give it to me. But in that moment, I was like, I am going out on my own and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out. So that was 27 for me. What about you? What do you remember?
When I was 27, I had then been in my first like real big kid job as a therapist for 2 years. I was renting my first home. Actually, thinking about it, I was in a major like debt, like trying to fix that situation. Like I definitely had
Like a
run up my
cycle?
credit cards,
Yeah.
and I like actually did like credit counseling and all that stuff
Yeah.
because I was just like in a rock and a hard place. Also, I wasn't getting paid great, but I was definitely feeling well, at least I'm on my own, but I don't really feel like I can do much. Like it's not like I could go on vacations. It's not like I could go buy a fancy car or buy a house. But I also was happy that, hey, at least I have my own like roof over my head and it's
Yeah.
mine, and
Yeah.
I'm living on my own without roommates. Um, and so yeah, it definitely felt very adult, but also I think remember feeling like I want my money back. Like this sucks. This isn't, oh, then again, the Friends theme song. So no one told you life was going to be this way, but they did tell us life was going to be this way. And I think we all just want to believe that it's just going to be different, or you just can't fathom it when you're actually there, like from when you're watching it before you get there.
Sure. It's definitely, I mean, you're describing differences in like the US economy over the course of like 40 years, right? From the time that you were born and the time you got into your adulthood, and even then till now, like so many things have changed from the 80s until now.
Yeah.
So that whole era, like the boomers, the boomer generation, like they were the ones that really sort of created a lot of wealth coming out of, I don't want to get too historical about it, right? But like
Sure.
coming out of the World War II generation is when they were all born. And so they all grew up and they created all of these industries. And then the industries were all sort of hoarded and taken apart and whatever, all the things. So yeah, so money has really, really changed for each individual generation. I mean, we were just we both listened to Amy Poehler's podcast. Good hang for anybody. We're just going to shout out Amy Poehler because
You got to listen to it if you're not.
Freaking love Amy Poehler. But she says she has a stupid little bit of stand up where she says boomers say it's all about the money. And Gen X goes, is it really all about the money? And millennials are like, where's all the money? And then Gen Z's like, what the hell is money? It's such a brilliant, silly observation, but it's so accurate. Like, that's the 40 years encapsulated, right? So not to get too far off track. We're talking about adulting.
No, but that is connected, right? Like I think, that's a big part of why I thought talking about adulting would be important, because even with my clients, I have had clients right now, I would say some are in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. I see the different ways that every generation and person approaches adulting and what it looks like to be a successful adult. So maybe that's something to speak of. Like, what do you think, Jason? What would you say are the standards of what at least you think most people classify as successful adulting?
I don't know, Sean. Don't make me think about this. I'm just kidding.
You don't have to.
It's
purely opinionated.
It's going to the doctor when I need to go to the doctor, right? It's taking care of my pets to make sure that they're staying alive and happy, and it's fixing shit around the house when it gets broken. It's paying taxes. It's all those things that you don't necessarily want to get off the couch and do. Like those are pretty present examples in my life of how I would define adulting.
See, and I think, okay, so maybe this is the difference that maybe you're looking at more from like the actual task to task daily stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking like, what about, in terms of landmarks, like when you're like, oh yeah, like when I bought my first home, when I
Oh,
bought my first new car, when I made a certain dollar amount. I think it is important to think about some of the good parts of adulting because it's not all terrible.
all right. Yeah, that's fair enough. Sure. So milestones, like, okay, so going back to the first apartment, right? The 27-year-old Jason, like that, my first apartment, that was a big thing. Like I had my own apartment all on my own for 3 years, and that was a big deal. Shortly after that, I bought my first car from a dealership, not from, the neighbor down the street or from a used car ad on Craigslist or something like that. Like when I was in my 20s, having to go find my own dentist. I remember doing that when I lived in Chicago. I didn't have dental care, so I couldn't go to the guy that we used to go when I was a kid because he'd retired. So like, how does 30-year-old Jason go find a dentist? Like, okay, sure. So I mean, those are definitely like some of the early milestones, and then opening or talking to like maybe a financial advisor, or opening a savings account. Like those are big deals to me growing up. Like I had a savings account as a kid, but then all that went away going through high school and college. And so as an adult, having a few dollars left over that I could start saving for myself, but that was a big deal, right? So high speed cable, that was around when I was 27, 28 years old. These were like what I thought were really cool milestones. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I have made it as an adult, right? To be
Yeah.
able to have my own, all of these things. Yeah. What about for
Yeah.
you? What was it like?
In terms of my own
Hmm.
successful adulting versus like what I classify as successful adulting.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the freedom to like, oh yeah, this is something that stuck with me.
Hmm.
A coworker said when she was able to go through drive-through and didn't have to think twice about looking at her bank account before,
Ooh, yeah, that's
that was a
nice.
major
Yep.
moment of I don't have to worry about that. I know I have plenty of money in there.
Yep.
I know I can do that. I can swing that. Like
Yeah.
to me, that's a big one. Or
Yeah. Being
gosh,
able to go shopping and buy your own shoes or clothes or like that kind of stuff, right? Like that.
yeah.
Yeah. That feels like
Oh
pretty
yeah, like large purchases, like yeah, like
powerful.
buying an
Yeah.
iPhone, right? Like I
Gosh. Yeah.
remember being
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, like this is a lot of money." I still when I make large purchases, I still get a little sweaty. Like I'm still like, "Why are they letting me do this? I'm too young. I'm just a baby."
Yep.
You
Yep.
know? And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
"No, you're not." But like that, yeah, and then I guess also I mean, I definitely think like freedom and financial freedom. Freedom is a
Mm.
big piece of that. So, like, if you are able to save, if you are able to basically pay off your credit cards on a regular basis without
Mm.
it really
Yeah.
lingering over you, which, that actually goes perfectly in line with another bit of research that I picked up on, which
Mm.
this was done by the Life Happens survey, which was called Adulthood Across Generations.
Oh
This
wow.
was conducted by the Talker Research organization, and they polled 2,000 Americans split evenly by generation. So 500 each of Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. When it came to how do people define adulting, the top two answers were related to finance, with half saying it meant being able to pay their own bills, which was 56%, and being financially independent as 45%. In
Mm.
addition, many people said they felt like an adult when they moved out of their parents' homes.
Oh, we talked about both of
Um,
those things. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I think like what's really important, maybe why adulting has become sort of this hyper focused idea, especially starting in millennial culture,
Mm.
is I think partly I'm an elder millennial, but like the internet definitely came into my life at a very pivotal part in my like early teens, preteen years. So you correct me if I'm wrong as someone from Gen X, but it seems like we maybe because we had these outlets online that we were basically like kind of existentially processing stuff and talking about things, and it was first in blogs or chat rooms, and then social media became a thing, and so it felt like something I think we were thinking about, like, Oh, yeah. People get up every day and then they go on the weekends and they go and do things with their friends. And then they go home and they do all their chores again. And like they have this work life balance that people keep talking about. So, did the idea of adulting feel like even a concept or was it just something you did?
Yeah, it wasn't even a thing as I was coming into my own. It was just, this is what you do now. But again, that was the messaging I think coming from my parents' generation, right? Like this is what adults do, or this is how
Hmm.
you are a responsible person, member of society. So the idea that this was a choice, an option,
Yeah.
or that there were different ways to do it, like no, I had to figure that out on my own, right? And then
Yeah.
I think our culture is kind of like what you're alluding to. Our culture just started to define it differently, started to shape it differently. And then we actually saw that maybe we could have a choice, right? We could maybe just rent instead of buy, or you could whatever, right? Whatever the choices became. So yeah.
Maybe that's part of what makes it harder is like you mentioned, and this is nothing new. You can read it, see it about anywhere is that yes, the baby boomer generation have basically created this incredible economy with all these things buzzing everywhere.
Mm,
Except for a lot of them then kept it to themselves or then helped to make decisions to
sure.
sort of shift some of these industries in other ways. And also, some are just not retiring, which I can kind of understand for a lot of reasons. Maybe one of them is financially, but also,
Mm,
like, you do hear all the time about how people they retire and if you don't have a good sense of life outside of your job you really struggle. And so I think that that maybe is part of like as a millennial thinking about adulting. I'm firmly aware of the fact that even though my generation has had the most college graduates, we still are firmly behind our peers in the exact same places they were at when they were at my current generation's age.
right.
And
15
so,
years earlier. Right. Yeah.
right. And even just, I saw another thing on the Pew Research study that I pulled up, which was basically saying millennials who didn't graduate with a college degree, if they just have a high school diploma, are much more likely to still be living at home versus previous generations with the same
Sure.
thing.
Mm,
Which I can definitely say my mom didn't get her college diploma. She was able to work at a company and start at a very basic entry level and then was there for 45 years basically and was essentially a senior VP at that point. And
wow.
you just don't hear about that anymore.
No,
Everything comes with a degree
it's
requirement.
yeah, it's
And
really rare these days. Yeah.
so, in saying all that, when you think about your clients and even
Mm.
because I know I'm assuming also see people from all walks of life and age demographics.
I have
Um,
clients 14 through 70 right now.
yeah,
So yeah. Mm,
when you hear about their daily feelings around just living, like
mm,
successful adult living and how they're doing, how would
sure.
you say you feel like your clients are doing?
I think some of the older clients, just probably based on pure experience and just for perspective here, like we're talking about people who can afford private practice, mental health care, right? So,
Yeah.
so there's definitely a filter there on the general populace. But some of the older adults that I see, again, probably just through life experience, like they have it pretty dialed in. They know if they're not retired, they know when they're going to retire, or they know, kind of like what the next few years of their career is going to look like, and then they're going to shift into a different mode. People around my age are most of them are like heading towards the peak of their career or in the peak of their careers, and so they're feeling pretty good, but they're maybe overwrought. They have a lot more responsibility than maybe they would rather have at 45 or 50 years old, right? Again, a lot of it maybe they chose, but a lot of people that I see under the age of 40 are like really questioning what the hell is going on, and is this actually like in the greater interest, right? This is
Yeah.
probably across the board. Anybody between the age of 30 and 40 is going, this isn't working and we need to figure out a different system. So those are the people that are probably the angriest, that's the most riled up about
Yeah.
the responsibilities of adulthood and kind of like what the future might hold for them. People in their 20s, I don't have a ton of those,
Mhm.
but I think it's pretty universal between 20 somethings and teenagers, where it's almost like, well, the world's going to be over in 20 years anyway. So, like, what do I care?
Yeah.
which is frightening to hear that perspective, but also I just can't sit there and disagree with them, right? Like the joke is that, the world is on fire. We're trying to give our clients sunscreen. Like, yeah, I get that metaphor, right? It kind of applies, but also try and give them some hope that if you just keep working at something or try and become expert in something or try and become skilled at something, like you'll eventually get somewhere. That's my perspective, right? Again, lots of things
Yeah.
have changed in the last 40 years. So
Yeah. And I think that is maybe kind of the crux of it all, is that maybe that is our job now, as not only as therapists, but then also as just human beings, is we have to redefine what successful adulting looks like.
yeah,
And
just success in particular, but
right.
yeah, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah, what does it mean to
absolutely.
be a functional, successful adult? Yeah, for sure.
Right. Because if you base it on the lens of comparison to what it looked like at once upon a time, and or what you saw in media, it's so easy, I think, then to feel like, well, fuck, I'm never going to get there.
Right.
I'm never going to get there. And without hope, you just don't have a lot of gas in the engine without
Right.
hope.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm curious what you would say are maybe some great ways to reassess and maybe even realign ourselves as people. To what do you think we can do to maybe better shift how we look at what it means to be successfully adulting?
Sure. Yeah. This is a great question. And I like this line or this type of work. I think I do this with a lot of people. This is specifically something I do a lot with people in their 30s. It's values work. And so I'll explore like what really is important to you, right? What do you wake up thinking about and sort of include in your life? I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but what do you include in your life almost automatically because it's important, right?
Yeah.
These are your whys. Like, what are you getting up for every single day? What's important? So things that are important to me would be something like health. I know that I am a better human when I am healthy, when things in my life are balanced. And so I try and eat good food and I try and drink water like I've been doing this whole time. I try and get good sleep. I try and exercise like as often as I can or as often as I feel like my body needs it. So that's a value. And then when I focus on that and I start to make decisions around my values, then I feel like that to me is success. I'm now living the life that I believe is important. And that's just a personal, like a self-focused value. Like there are other values that I hold that I can set goals for that, align to the community or to our work group or to my family members or my husband, and those are all super important too. But when I do that and I do that over and over and over again, I can then look back at the last year, 2 years, 5 years and go, yeah, actually I'm doing it right. I don't need anybody else to define success for me. Now, again, this is from a white male, 40 something, pretty educated, privileged position, right? So I get that when we're scrapping and we're not making ends meet and it feels like, we're one paycheck away from being homeless, which is unfortunately about half of the country at this point. It's tough. It's tough to think about that. It's tough to make decisions based on those things. But again, when we do focus on the things that are important, then I do feel like that to me is what success is. I've never really defined success as having money. That's never been like the top priority. And it makes a lot of things easier. If anybody wants to feel like a successful adult, figure out what's important to you, set some goals, and start working towards those things. What about for you? What do you say
Yeah,
about
no,
it?
that's great. As you were saying all that, especially the last part where you say I don't look at money as something I look for to make me happy, is I always think about the phrase along the lines of um, money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you freedom.
Mm, yeah.
And that it gets you access. And so to me, that then goes, well, how do we create freedom in our lives in ways where it's not limited by money?
Mm,
And that is, I think, where we have to we have to acknowledge that we're going to see things that are going to make us very upset, and we're going to have injustices, and we're going to have privilege, and we're going to have some of us with and without, depending on various factors. I guess we have to do is define that for ourselves. You're right. Like
that's to me, that's what it comes back to.
yeah. And maybe I think that that's such a big piece of it is when we get caught up in the idea of, oh, I don't have this family. I don't have this amazing 3-car garage. I don't have a retirement account that, like, if I lost my job, I'd be good for a year. You know, all those things. It really does come back to those day-to-day things of, how do I spend my time? How do I utilize the greatest unrenewable resource of time? And make sure that if life is feeling too heavy, then I need to just go on a sense of, I kind of call it, I don't like saying autopilot necessarily, but kind of cruise control in a way, which is essentially the same thing, in the sense that I think when life gets really hard, I think we do have to choose, you know what, this area isn't going to look incredible, but it's functioning. And maybe that's what we have to do. But you still have to check in on those parts. And I do think it's important to begin and continue making plans to hopefully further yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, then asking your friends, asking, you know, if you have a great relationship with family members or your boss or your mentors or whatever, like connecting with people to continue to broaden those horizons.
So what do you think about this? So I feel like what we're talking about, which is essentially defining success for yourself, like we're saying we're going to give the finger to the culture around us that's telling us how to be successful. We get messages all day long. So what do you think about like that? Like defining success for yourself is kind of countercultural. It's kind of rebellious.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the many battles I think existentially we are in as people. Is we are, I feel like my social media is either look how fabulous I am or let's deconstruct how fabulosity is bullshit, you know?
Sure.
And so it's kind of like, it's kind of in every other post kind of thing. Cause there's very aspirational things that I follow, which I love looking at pretty things. I love looking at pretty people and pretty sceneries, but I also like a healthy dose of, this really sucks. And I'm not going to act like it doesn't, which I think is also really key to not getting, I think, too caught up in this thought that you're behind. Because I think if you talk to most people, they might not say their life sucks. Hopefully it doesn't. But I think they can say, oh, yeah, there's massive and vast room for improvement as a society in our culture.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I think what you're kind of talking about too is like the comparison factor. It's not just in social media, but it's everywhere. That messaging is everywhere in our culture. We do look elsewhere if we're not thinking about it, if we're not intentional about defining success for ourselves and defining what adulting is for ourselves, then we're going to look outside of ourselves to put that together. And then that's become comparison. Then it's going to become, I feel like I'm behind, or I don't have this, or I don't have enough, or whatever it is. Right. So that piece to me is the important part, is staying aware of what's important to us as adults, as functioning members of society, and then doing those things that make us feel successful.
Yeah. Which that actually, I think, is a perfect segue to this really cool quote that I saw on social media earlier this week.
Weird. Wow.
I'll kill you. And anyway, this is from an Instagram page that I highly recommend everybody to follow. It's called We the Urban. They talk a lot about various things, social justice, mental health, and they find a really great way of keeping real, but also keeping optimistic. And I came across this post earlier this week, and I thought I'd read it because I thought it would be applicable to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, sure.
So the saying or the post goes, may you stop beating yourself up for not being where you thought you'd be by now. No one has all the answers or their life perfectly sorted out, and there's no universal timeline for success. Your life is not a race, it's a rhythm, a journey, a perfect process. Keep going, keep growing, you might be closer than you think.
Oh, that's great. That's a great sentiment.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it is true. I think there are so many times where I know maybe this has happened to you too. I'll ask you this because I'm kind of giving away that I had this experience, but have you ever had the experience where you did get something that you really wanted and then you went, actually, I don't think that's not as satisfying as I thought, or I don't know, I don't feel like I wanted it as badly as I thought I did.
That's interesting.
Did you reach a certain
And then it
thing in
wasn't
your
anything.
life that you
Yeah.
had always thought, once I get to this, I think I will feel like I checked something off and it's going to be something I'm really like fucking proud of. But in
Mm.
actuality, like, okay, yeah, it's great that you did it, but like, it's not something that you're like, oh, I put a lot more stock in that than I probably should have.
Well, it's making me think of like the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Mm,
There's usually a cost to either attaining something or now possessing or owning, having responsibility for something, right? It's like
yeah.
getting my first dog was a big, as an adult, right? Was a big deal. The fact that I went to an adoption agency and chose an animal that I was going to take care of for the next 12, 15 years of her life, yeah, that means I'm also cleaning up poop in the middle of the night. That means seriously, that means I'm also making an
Yeah.
emergency run to the store for dog food because I forgot to get it in my groceries. It means all of those other sort of costs. So I don't know that particular thing I've had, but it's usually like, that's usually the realization that I have, is that, okay,
Mm,
now I have this really cool thing that I've been looking forward to having. And also there are other things attached to it
yeah.
we just don't talk about enough, or
Yeah.
you just don't know it until you are in it.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought maybe this could be a good time to talk about what can we recommend to people to help them sort out how to figure out adulting in a way that works for them.
Hmm. Well, I think first of all, like if I'm thinking about my younger clients, don't give up. It feels really fucking impossible right now.
Mm,
It really,
yeah.
really does. I just want to validate that. Like, things are bleak in this country right now, especially if you are of any minority identity.
Yep.
So don't give up. Don't feel like it's a lost cause. We figure it out. We, as humans, we are resilient. As a society, we are resilient. We figure out how to get it, what it is that we need, or that will help us feel happy, centered, grounded, successful, what, all those things, right? So that would be first of all. And then secondly, I would come back to like figuring out your values. What really is important to you, and what do you want to focus on? Mark Manson, one of my favorite authors, he has this book that I give away. It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's about 10 years old, and it's an ironic title, obviously, because the whole point of the book is how to actually figure out what you care about and then how to go after it, which is the reason that I give that book away. It's an easy read. It's fun. It's definitely crass, but I appreciate that about it. And so it's a helpful tool for really going, oh yeah, do I really need to worry about, like, what sports figures are, how many millions of dollars their contracts are, extraneous details in your life, stuff that we get spun up or emotional about because we see it on the news or we see it on our media. No, you really don't have to give that energy, right? If you want to have a dog and you think having a dog is going to actually make you happy, like, put some energy into that, put some time into that, and then go do that and spend time doing that. So these are things that, like, I will come back to with my clients over and over again. They're sort of staples maybe of like human life, is doing the things that we know are good for us and then doing the things that we know are important to us. When we can drill it down to those basics, then I think that's probably the best advice I would give anybody. Like, that's
Yeah.
really where you put your time and energy, and then you'll see it come back around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah. I really want to offer some practical things. So one of the things that I do, not only as a human being that's always working through adulting, but also as somebody that, works in the mental health field and also has their own mental health struggles, is something that I think is so basic, but is so important, is, and research shows this, take a shower every day.
Oh,
It is so, to me, it wakes
yeah.
you up. it rejuvenates you.
Sure.
The scent of the soap or shampoo or whatever, the water hitting you. It is truly something that after I take a shower, if I am feeling down or kind of like ugh about things, it just feels like, okay, I checked something off and I feel better and I smell better. And like, okay, like so that to me is that whole concept of like, once you get the ball rolling, it rolls. So like you got to start rolling it.
Yeah.
So that's always like a basic one I talk about with my clients all the time. And I think it does need to come to like, sometimes we do have to break it down to those very microscopic like levels of what it means to be a successful adult.
Yeah, sure.
And then also I was like, you know what? I think we also need to think about, and this can be controversial depending how you look at it, is we need to utilize technology for our betterment. And now some of us really like AI and some of us are like, feeling a little uncertain about it, but it's inevitable, right? However,
It's not going anywhere, Sean.
I know. But I will say, like, even just using your phone, you can use, most phones. I think everybody has these basic features. You utilize your reminder app on your phone, utilize notes on your phone. You can also collaborate with other people on your notes. I have had it where I've had a friend who we were each other's accountability partners, and through tracking on the app, we held each other accountable and cheered each other on. And so don't adult alone. I think that that's such a big piece of it is even if you're single, if you have a million kids, like find people to adult with to talk about these things.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there's a website called postable.com, and they have an article, if you want to Google it, called 46 Adulting Apps to Make Being a Grown-Up Easier. And so it's sometimes as simple as that. I took a little skim off of that. And there's a lot of talk about financial stuff, a lot of talking about just like, if it helping you get organized, utilizing technology to, buy your groceries, like all those things that maybe for a lot of people are givens, but not necessarily for everybody. Like, I think we need to maximize making life as efficient as possible in all the areas that we need, but don't really want to focus attention on.
Sure.
And so if you have the ability to do that, again, if you have the privilege to do that, then utilize it. Like otherwise it's just, ruining our world for nothing.
Well, here, I'll contribute one more sort of practical tool to this. And it's ironic because the way that I talk about this tool is that we all have, even as adults, we all have this internal toddler that needs to be attended to. And so it's a parenting trick. It's called HALT. Maybe you've heard about this,
I
right?
say it all the time.
Yep. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Check in with yourself. If you are having a really tough day as an adult, usually there's something going on with one of those four things.
If not many of them.
If not more than one, right? Yeah. So do you need a snack, or do you need to let off some steam, go for a walk? Do you need a hug or connection with a friend? Or do you just need to take a little nap or close your eyes for 10 minutes? Or like usually things will feel better if you're doing that. And that's just, I feel like that's an adulting hack for sure.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because it is such a basic one, but it's true. Like, I think even if you do, maybe you're not sure, try all four. Try to figure out have a little snack, talk to someone, connect with someone if you're feeling angry or lonely. And then, if you're tired, usually, but like there is still that like toddler in all of us that sometimes I'm like, I don't know why I'm so mad. And then you're like, oh wait, I got like 4 hours of sleep last night and I am not a kid anymore. I can't just bounce back. So that's important to think about.
I saw an interview with Kumail Nanjiani. Is that how you say his name? I think that's right. I apologize, Kumail, if I messed it up, because I know you're listening. He said he was walking around all day one day, like on set, and he was just pissed off at everybody, and he was snapping at everybody, and he was just a grumpy ass like all day long. And then he said he got home and he had a glass of water, and everything was fine. He's like, "Oh, I was thirsty." Like that's terrible. First of all, that's terrible, but secondly, like there you go. That's just more evidence towards like pay attention to the fussy toddler inside you.
No, well, and I mean,
Yeah.
let's also going back to that though, drink your fucking water.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yep.
been drinking my energy drink to keep my energy up. I also
Mm.
have my little handy dandy Yeti around because it truly is such a game changer when you regularly intake water. I know there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it doesn't taste like anything." I don't care. It makes me feel better, and it
Mm-hmm.
will make you feel better too if
Mm-hmm.
you actually use it and have enough of it in a given day. You sleep better, you move better, you just feel clearer. It's just, I mean, we are made of water, all the things. These are not new things, but we have to remember water is a game changer. Do not neglect water. Water is awesome.
That's
This
what
is
I'm
brought
taking
to you by
away.
Big Water.
Yes. That's what I'm taking away from this episode is that the key to adulting is drink water.
Drink water and
Just drink water.
shower and
Yeah.
just rinse and repeat.
Right. Rinse and
Just
repeat. Yeah.
constantly, be in water. All right. Well, now we are at our point in the episode where the one that is not the main host or the driver of the conversation is tasked with coming up with a question or a conversation point to surprise the person leading the episode. So in that case, that would be you, Jason.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you take over.
Sure. So I just thought I would ask you, Sean, like, what is, so it's a two-part question.
Okay.
What is the worst thing about adulting for you? And what is one of the best things about adulting?
What I love about that is, again, how our brains work, because one of my things I had in my notes that was going to be a question for later was asking you your least favorite part of adulting.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you said the least favorite part, and then was it
the worst thing you have to do as an adult, and then also maybe your favorite thing that you get to do.
The worst part. I mean, this is gonna sound terrible, but I mean, it's not every day. I mean, I will say this: going to work,
having to work, right?
I like that better. Having to work, because here's the thing: I really love my job. I love my job more than I've ever loved my job, and I love where I work and with whom I work with, and it feels more important than ever. Having to work. Like, it just sucks. I hate just thinking about, I need to make sure I have this and that to cover this and that. And so, yeah, like there are people, and maybe that I would feel differently if I were somebody that like didn't have a job and like was a kept man. But like I truly think sometimes I would be so good at not working. I also think I'd miss it. I think, but maybe not. I don't know. If it also depends on how much money. That's a very privileged thing to say. In terms of a more like logistical, like everyday thing, I will say I will get into these parts where I really, God, I sound so stupid saying this. No, I'm judging myself. I sound complainy about this. Is like, I have to think about what I'm going to order from the grocery store. And I hear myself say that. First of all, I'm ordering from the grocery store. I remember back in the early 2010s when they were like, Walmart is going to begin doing all grocery pickup. I'd heard about these niche places where you could pick up groceries. And I thought my entire life is going to change, because I personally I can get very overwhelmed with the grocery store experience, especially if you live somewhere where it's a major big chain and there's lots of people and it's
the super center places. Those are I can't even grocery shop there. I won't. If I have another option, I won't do it. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
And then they up it and go, hey, and we'll deliver to your house actually now. But I yet still will go, I have to think about the list. And then I have to think about the time. And if I run out of time coming up with the list, I lose my slot. Like, these are these really silly, stupid things. But
good perspective, though. Good perspective to take. Yeah, you're complaining about an extremely convenient option that you have.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then, and then what was the kind of...
what's the best thing? What do you love about... the privilege of being an adult?
I love that. I can do whatever I want when I want. Especially now that I'm in a position in my career. It's also, with time in privilege. I'm now in a place where I make my schedule and I do what I want when I want. To me, that is my freedom. I may not be able to do all the things I want,
Yeah.
but within my realm of control, I know if I want to take a nap, I can take a nap. If I want to go for a drive, I'll take a drive. Like, and I can decide what I want and when I want it. And so I think, again, choice is power. And so I think if we look at our choices and really think about it, and if you have a lot of choices, I mean, really, that right there is privilege. Is if
Yeah.
you can say, I have choices, that's great.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Versus, I mean, how many other times I've felt like I don't have enough choices, and that was in itself a real bummer.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
now I'm going to flip that back to you. So
Yeah.
what is your least and I guess favorite parts of adulting?
Well, this won't surprise you, but administrative tasks I find to be just soul crushingly tedious.
Yeah.
Like paying bills and things like that. Like luckily my husband does most of those things in our life. And so I don't, and he's accustomed to them and he's geared for them. He's very skilled in that. It's, a lot of his job. And so he's just really I'm like, ugh, and he just goes, come here, and blah, 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 and 30 seconds later it's done. I'm like, okay, thank you. I love you. So I'm privileged in that way. And that I have somebody in my life who can navigate most of those and accomplish most of those. But when they're on my plate, that sucks. I just don't like it. Yeah. It's truly the worst part. The best part is, it's probably very similar to what you're saying. Like I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, which, within reason. Obviously I have responsibilities that I've chosen to have in my life. But one of my favorite things is honestly, it's having pets. Like I get to take care of these fuzzy little animals that just love the hell out of me. And that for me is just so rewarding. Like I don't have kids and I'm not going to have kids, but like having little creatures in my life that I get to love on and who love on me, like it's just awesome. It's so great. So that's definitely one of the best pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Great.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up, we forgot to do this last time, but hey, we remembered this time is we like to end our episodes with our individual shout outs, which again are just things that we are just greatly excited about, appreciative of, or for. And we want to just give them a shout out in terms of just kind of saying, hey, this is kind of a great thing that's going on right now for me. So what would your shout out of this episode be?
I'm going to give two, actually. So the first one, and something I noticed today that I think I need to send to everybody. Not I think, I'm going to send to everybody. For those people who don't know, we as a group, as a therapy practice, we moved into a new space recently. And we've been there for 10 weeks now, something like that. Like we moved in early March, 1st of March.
Almost 3 months.
Yeah, almost three whole months. Like the places, I was there today and I happened to be there all by myself and I was just like walking around and inspecting things, but I was also sort of just like looking and appreciating, and like we are a well-oiled machine, the 6 of us. Like things are set, they are pretty, they are maintained, they are stocked, they are cleaned. Like we are really good about those things, about taking responsibility for managing the space and taking care of each other, right? And backing each other up and holding each other accountable. Like, I just feel like it's really great. So I'll send that text or tell everybody myself, but that's my first one. I just was really appreciating that today. And then I'm revisiting a show that I've already watched, but I love this show. And it's in particular, I love it because of Gary Oldman. And so that's my true shout out is Gary Oldman. He is just genius as an actor, but it's Slow Horses on Apple TV. I'm watching it again for the second time. And every scene that he is in, like as a, aspiring actor, community theater actor, like I love watching him because it's just effortless. He is just a different person every time you watch him as a different character. And he's absolutely disgusting in that show. He's a disgusting, gross individual. And he's so awesome to just watch be that person. So that's mine. Yeah, that's mine.
That's great. Yes. Yeah. I know. I need to get on that because you've been celebrating and touting that show.
It's a slow burn, but it's a good British spy thriller. Like it's definitely watchable.
In the same vein, my shout out is also television related.
Weird.
I know. I didn't forecast this at all. my shout out is to the phenomenal new show Overcompensating.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things.
I am so charmed by this show.
Wow.
It is so funny, but also so moving. So basically, the premise of the show is the creator and star of the show is
It's on Prime, right?
yes, it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And there's only 8 episodes, so you can wipe this out in an afternoon or a long weekend like we're about to have.
Yeah.
And Benito Skinner is the creator and star of the show, and basically it follows him as he's beginning his freshman year of college as this basically closeted, high school football player who, arrives at campus and is deciding how is he going to navigate how he appears to the larger community and not being an out person.
Yeah.
But it's kind of raunchy, it's kind of silly, but also they have these moments that are so filled with heart. And part of that is I will say the editing in the show is like phenomenal. And if you are a fan of Charlie XCX, she is one of the music producers on this show. And so throughout the entire series, there are these drops of her music at really great times. And one thing I appreciate, and this is maybe a double shout out is also to Charlie XCX, is I have realized how much I appreciate dance electronic music that also somehow is emotional at the same time. Because I think a lot of times we think of the, kind of thing going on.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the way her lyrics and the way that the melodies play over each other and her use of tempo and effects, it can really just make a moment slow down in time and you just feel it like this incredible, I don't know, she's an incredible musician and artist. And anyway, she also has a cameo in the show, which is phenomenal. So again, please check out Overcompensating. I've already stated that if they don't renew the show, I'm going to lead a riot. Like I'm not messing around. It is the #1 show on Amazon right now. So I think it's doing okay. I think the hopes are good, but I need this show to come back. It left us on a cliffhanger. Again, only 8 episodes, like about half an hour or so. Anyway, I could wax poetic. I could have a whole episode about it, as you can see.
Yes.
So Overcompensating, check it out.
Great. Awesome. I like it.
Now, Jason, do we know what we're talking about next time?
Well, no, we do not.
That's the magical mystery of Collect Your Thoughts is sometimes you do, and sometimes you need more little time to collect your thoughts.
Yeah, it's totally true. No, you and I have brainstormed. We've got lots and lots of possibilities. And so, no, I don't have a teaser ready, but I'm sure it'll be just as fun and interesting as our last 3 episodes.
Of course. All right. Well, any last thoughts before we walk away, turn away, turn off, log off from our listeners?
Yes, sing more show tunes. No.
Yeah.
That's it. It's Memorial Day weekend. I hope you have a nice, long, relaxing weekend.
Same to you.
Yeah, thanks. I plan to. Yeah.
Great. All right, y'all. Well, remember to take a deep breath. Yeah.
Pause and collect your thoughts.
We'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Right. Bye.